welcome you all to our station, Mason County Fire District 17. I'm Chief Nadine Brown, and it's my honor to welcome Alan Hoffmeister, Northwest Incident Command Team 10.
That's it, huh? Great, thank you. Good evening. I know it's hot and it's going to be a little tough. What we'd like to do tonight is give you some information, okay? And we'll do that as quickly as we can. With this many people, there's really not an opportunity to ask questions in the big group, that sort of thing. So our plan is we'll do some presenters here. We're just going to have four presenters, and then we're going to break up, and you can go talk to any of these folks that have presented. There's a variety of agency people around the room. We'll introduce some of those to you, but not all. And we'll stay here just as long as you'd like, perhaps outside because it's cooler. We've got some maps that you can take outside and talk until you get all your questions answered. Is that okay with everyone? Yeah. All right. We'll do this just as quickly as we can. Make sure your cell phones don't make a lot of noise. Okay, mine's off. Okay, that's embarrassing. All right. Let me introduce our speakers first of all. Okay, I've got a list up here. We're going to hear from Al Lawson. Al, stand up, raise your hand. Al is the incident commander of this Northwest Interagency Management Team 10, whatever that is, and he's going to kind of explain that to us, just what this team is all about and what our goals are. But then Dean Lang, this is the guy you're all waiting to hear. He's going to go around the fire and tell you what's been happening, what the tactics have been, and where we're headed over the next few days as best he can. All right? And then Iwa Lau is the district ranger for the Forest Service here in the area. She can talk to you about what we're doing, why we're doing what we're doing up there, and how it impacts the resources and campgrounds and all that sort of thing, and anything else she comes to think of. And Don Melton, Don's over here too. Don is the assistant regional manager for the Department of Natural Resources, and part of this fire, this little blue part over here, is state trust lands. So the Department of Natural Resources is involved, the Forest Service is involved, and I don't have probably can't see it here, but this fire, you have a map in your hand too. This fire is a little thing up here. It's quite a ways away. We still got about 4 miles before it hits Highway 101, and it's not going to do that. I'll tell you why it's not going to do that. And that's where it sits. So that's the place. This is the fire itself. Okay? There's some other folks in the room I'd like to introduce. Before I forget, you may want to talk to them one-on-one. I've asked them not to speak to the group because we want to get through this quickly. Tim Shelton, where are you, Tim? Tim Shelton, state senator's back here. And Kevin Schulte, county commissioner, here by the door. And Sergeant Bill Reed from the Sheriff's Department. We invited the Sheriff's Department so they could tell you about all the evacuations and how people were running for their lives, but that's not happening, so I'm not going to let him speak, okay? He's not involved right now. But if you have any questions for the Sheriff's Department, talk to him. I forgot to let these speakers introduce their bosses that are here. That's good for their evaluation if they introduce their bosses. You can do that when it comes time for you to speak. How's that? Okay. Okay. Any questions about the process? Let's get going. All right. First of all, Al Lawson, Incident Commander. It's all yours.
All right, thank you. Wow, what a great group. Thanks for coming tonight, folks. I appreciate it. So, introductions, I'm Al Lawson. I'm the Incident Commander of Northwest Team 10. So there are 8 teams similar to mine around the geographic area, which includes both Oregon and Washington. So this team this is our third fire this summer. Needless to say, you probably noticed that there's been a lot of fire in the landscape, and there's been a lot of teams out, a lot of fire departments, etc. This is our third assignment. We started down in Southern Oregon and Northern California. Our next assignment was just out of the Dalles, Oregon here recently, and we spent a few days at home to visit our families, and now we're out on this one. So my team consists roughly of about 50 people who work in different departments, right? So we got logistics, finance, operations, etc., and we manage these incidents. So you might ask, well, how do you put out the fire with just managers? We order those. So your friends, your neighbors, folks from around the community and around the Northwest help us put out the fires. So we bring in dozer operators, tender operators, we use our fire department folks, etc. The makeup of our team is relatively the same. The folks on our team from communities much like yours. I'm from a little town called White Salmon, Washington, down in the gorge, right? And members of our team are from all over. We have folks from Pendleton, Oregon, we have folks from Chelan, etc., etc. So that's kind of the makeup of our team. So when we show up to fires like this, our first job is to work with the communities. We're not here to take it over from the folks that have been here working hard. And I got to tell you, my hat's off to those folks who responded to this thing initially. The fire departments, we were hosted initially by the local fire department here with the IMT, the Type 3 IMT that took this ahead of us, did a phenomenal job. The handoff to us was smooth. We had all the information we need, and we hit the ground running with this fire. We already had resources out there. We just started ordering to complement that. We have roughly 300 people on this fire right now with the management team and the folks that are out there. And I owe a huge debt of gratitude to those folks, those boots on the ground out there. You know, I get to stay back and manage, even though you know, I want to be out there and I have been out there. This is my 35th year in fire. I started as a ground pounder, right? But you know, that helps me understand what's going on the ground, the temperatures and the conditions those folks are out working in. I think about them every day, and my number one priority, and we'll talk a little bit about that, is firefighter safety. We've had some fatalities out on the landscape here recently on fires, and it just breaks my heart to hear about those. And the last thing I want is to put my folks out there on the line at any risk. So you're going to hear about some of the strategies and tactics and why that is the number one priority to us and why that's important. So that's about it for me. I know you want to get to the real information here, and so I'm going to pass this along to my operations section chief, Mr. Dean Lang.
Thanks for coming. Any map fans out there? People who just love maps? Is that a beauty or what? And if you're a map person, that's the deal. So, you know, one of the things I wanted to start by was to talk about some of the things that you're seeing up there to make a little bit of sense to you. As Alan mentioned, we've got two different colors. This is state land. This is federal land, Forest Service land. And so that's a delineator. Is that word? Delineator. We also divide these fires up into divisions, right? You know the old adage, how do you eat an elephant? A bite at a time. So when we come into something like that, that's exactly what we do, is we start dividing it up and then putting the resources that we think need to be in certain areas to work in those divisions. And we use these little signs for divisions. So in our case, we've got Alpha and Echo and Sierra and X-ray, okay? So you'll see these little B's along here. Those are roads that are brushed out. You'll see them down here. You'll see some hash marks down here. That's a dozer line, okay? So with that, I did want to talk to you about a couple of questions that we get a lot. One being, why aren't we flying a bunch of retardant with these giant jet airplanes? And the answer to that is, on this fire, is that you guys live in some beautiful country. It's steep, it's big timber, and those are just not conducive features to these big airplanes with retardant. Those are used for grasses, fine fuels. With all this big canopy that you guys have here, it's not effective, right? So that's why you're not seeing that. And instead, you're seeing helicopters with buckets, And you think a bucket work with more pinpoint accuracy and hitting specific spots instead of broadcasting like a retardant would be. One of the challenges that we've had this summer is it's just been a long, hot summer. Everybody in this room is aware of all the fire that's going on from California to Oregon to Washington, and so with that we struggle to get resources. It's really tough to get folks when they're committed everywhere else, right? And then on top of that, the fires that get the most people are the fires that have houses burning and people getting hurt and all that kind of stuff. So that when you have one that's a little bit more isolated, it puts you a little bit lower on the priority scale. And if you think about that, it makes sense, right? And then lastly, kind of like Commander Lawson mentioned, the package that your local firefighters gave us was so good. We come in with a lot more horsepower. That's why they call in these teams. We have more people, we get some more resources, but that plan that you guys had built with your local people and the Type 3 that came in was so good, we took their plan and ran with it. We didn't hardly change a thing. So you guys should be very grateful. You've got some very, very good firefighters in this community. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get to the nuts and bolts of this thing, and I'll be brief. We'll start up here on the Echo Sierra break. We've got this is the 2480 road, if you guys are familiar with that country. We've got it all brushed real nice, and if you're familiar with that, this is a pretty steep downhill, and then it kind of, there's a little bit of a toe there, a little bit of a flat spot. So this fire has been backing down towards that 2480. We got that road prepped up and ready to go. And then there was a couple spots where it wasn't coming to the road quite good, so we kind of helped it, right? It wasn't a big burnout like you see on TV sometimes, just trying to help it along, because the goal is always black to that control line and as straight as possible, right? That's always the goal. So we've been burning that, just kind of helping it along, all the way down past this dog leg a little bit. It's starting to consume this area here. It's a little bit of a flat. And then if you look at the map close, you can see Jefferson Creek coming up like this, and it just kind of follows that, if you're familiar with that country. So the plan is we're gonna help that thing along till it gets to the creek. It'll hang up there. And then we've also got what we call plumbed. And so we've got hose lines in there so that we can come in and we can help. If anything gets a little bit dicey, we can help, put that out with just water and dirt and so forth. So we'll bring that all the way down. We'll follow it to the creek. And if you're familiar with this road, the 2401 road, it parallels that Jefferson Creek, right? And if you know that country at all, it is very, very steep right off of the road. Hands and knees crawling steep, if you know what I'm saying. So the fire has been real nice and back down to that Jefferson Creek, and it's just hanging up right there. And so that's what we wanted to do. We don't want to put people in this really, really rugged country. The duff layer is very deep there. The trees are falling. We can't kill somebody trying to put something out like this. So we've got that brushed out. We did get a couple of guys in here on this flatter spot today. They took a peek in there. They thought it looked pretty good. The long range plan is we're going to come up with a water trunk line, what we call like a bigger hose line, and we're going to sprinkle this road. And that's going to raise that humidity up even more, and we think we're going to be successful with that. What we don't want to do is let it cross this 2401 road. That's a critical spot for us. Down here, there's a bridge down here, and it's really pretty rough in here. It's narrow, there's lots of rocks rolling, there's trees falling. We're not going to put people in there. So we're just kind of try to hang it up on this creek if possible. And if not, we'll have to figure out another plan right there. But that's the plan for now. So we like what we have going. Up in here is just kind of uncontained fire and just kind of letting it consume a little bit. Anybody notice that big column today? So like who didn't, right? So mostly that was this country here, and it's going to back down just like the rest of it. So no cause for concern there. And then the other part of that was the guys burning along this line trying to get it straight and black. So with that, I will turn it over to Iwa.
Thanks, Dean. And we're going to do this together because we're both the agency representatives for this fire. I first want to acknowledge my boss, Rita LaForde, is also here as well. And I just want to thank her support for me being able to spend my time and efforts and priorities on this fire over the normal day-to-day business. So I just want to also thank you for coming and thank the fire chief for letting us use this fire station. I'm glad there's so much interest, and hopefully you'll walk out of here feeling much more comfortable with what you're seeing from your homes and on the road when you're driving. So now you know about the fire, I want to talk about safety and closures and what that means for your ability to access this general area. This is the Hamma Hamma Road, very popular recreation destination. Also, we have some routes from the south. We have closed those areas for firefighter safety. As you heard, there's 300 firefighters and a lot of equipment, and they're using the road as fire breaks. So there's a lot of activity here, and we want to keep them able to work on the road and not have people driving through. Also, public safety is also of utmost importance. As you know, Hamma Hamma Road, one way in, one way out. And we think we have a good handle on the fire on this side, but you don't want to, if something were to happen, I don't want people up in this area. So that is why we currently have a closure, and to make sure that, we keep everyone safe. So the next question that you might be wondering is, what is the fire doing? How much damage is it doing on the landscape? I want to say the firefighting efforts, if you thought about it, it's pretty light on the land. We're using the roads, and we have maybe one dozer line. We're using water. The bucket drops is just water, and then sprinkler systems to take advantage of humidity to lower the fire activity in those areas. And then what's out here? Luckily not a whole lot. There's some trails. There's a repeater site that is actually non-functioning on the forest. And so right now there's not a lot to burn. The forest is burning, but fire's not always bad. It kills some trees, hopefully not all. And that adds a diversity of structure. So the forest will have more complexity, and that will help wildlife habitat to serve different animals, plants. What we are also monitoring, so it's pretty good for what we have. We're monitoring, of course, the recreation sites along the Hamma Hamma Road. We're also watching out for the cabin here, the historic CCC cabin, and we'll be ready. We have sort of protective wrap and sprinkler system in case that looks like it might be vulnerable. So I think I've covered the main points about closure orders, and so you can look on our website and webpage for the information, and that may change over time depending on what the situation is. We've tried to post signs as far in advance as we could, so that people wouldn't drive all the way to the actual the forest boundary, but have a place to turn around, or can make an educated guess as to whether they're trying to get here versus closer, where we actually have the road closed. And with that, I'll turn it over to Don.
Hey, thank you, Iwa. Appreciate that. And thank you guys for coming out. Really appreciate you being here, learning about this fire, and trying to get some information. Also, a big thanks to Chief Brown, wherever you are at, for hosting. Really awesome. Thanks for letting us come into the community. And then also Northwest Team 10. Thank you for being here. So I want to talk a little bit about, and actually before I do that, I'm sorry. So my boss, I almost got in trouble there, Scott Sargent, the regional manager here in South Puget Sound region for the DNR. So anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about today what the DNR does in terms of land management and fire suppression. So the DNR is an agency, state agency that manages lots of different things. Specifically for this fire, there's two kind of main programs affected. So one side of the DNR takes care of and does fire suppression on all private and state-owned timberlands in the state. And then also the trust land that we've been talking about is a valuable product that we harvest for those trust beneficiaries out there. So two different things that we're concerned with, obviously, is there's some value in that timber up there, and we're that's why we're being very active in suppressing out here, right? And so we're taking care of that. And we've also been working very, very closely with the Forest Service from day one up on that fire, trying to suppress that thing. The challenging part is that there's sections of this fire that are just frankly unsafe to put people. I mean, you guys have been there, you've seen that country. You know, we had a conversation very early on with Al talking about priorities on this thing. And both you and myself said, number one, absolute, is firefighter and safety of the public. You know, yes, we want to limit the acres burned, but if we can't take care of the priority one, then we're going to have to back off. So that's where we're coming from on that. And, you know, so I really like to have conversations with people. I'm not going to ask for questions now, but I do welcome a conversation after this. So thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Okay. One of the other things that I know has really impacted the community is the smoke. And you may understand now it's not going to go away for a while. The weather is coming in. It's going to be moist over this weekend. They're even saying maybe a quarter inch of rain here. But they're also saying maybe some thunder showers with lightning. But so this weekend it'll probably calm down. You won't see a lot of smoke. Maybe not. But in the coming weeks there will be smoke. And hopefully you picked up the green sheets when you came in. It talks about smoke. Gives you some ideas of what's really healthy and what isn't. If you've got computers and can get on the internet, that Washington Smoke blog spot that's on there, there's a tremendous amount of information. You can get on there and look at maps where they have air pollution sensors and see what those sensors are saying today. Okay, you know, really high-tech stuff. It's really cool. So use that if you can. And thank you for coming out tonight and putting up with us. Like I said, we're not going to leave. We're going to be around. We've got a big map. We've got smaller maps around the place here. And some of us have these name tags that say information on them. We're scattered around. Pick us out. Anybody with a uniform, if you have some questions. If they don't know the answer, they'll find somebody that does for you. Okay?
I have a question.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything about any containment.
Any containment? Okay. Well, I can address that one because I've been talking that question. Lots of people have been asking that question.
I never heard it until now, I guess.
And the answer is we are not going to contain this fire. We are not going to put a line around it and say this fire is out. As you heard, we're going to work real hard on these edges. This steep country where we'd kill people if we put them in there. And even if we did, if we built a 10-foot wide line in trees that are 200 feet tall, we're not going to stop it. So this fire is going to burn until Mother Nature puts it out. So we're not going to contain this fire. I'm sorry. Wish we could, but we're not going to.
It's a question.
Okay. So